1982 as an act of judicial policymaking. The case Harlow versus Fitzgerald did not even involve police. It was brought by a whistleblower who wanted to sue Nixon White House aides for punishing him because he spoke out against a Pentagon weapons program. In Harlow, the Supreme Court made all government workers immune from constitutional liability by default. No. The Supreme Court made all government workers immune from constitutional liability by default. Under whose authority? Was that by Congress? Who passed that? Who approved that? You see what I'm saying? So these people pretty much create their own policy, their own law. So what is it? How is it? Where's the meeting of the minds? Where's the equity in all of this? Okay? You have qualified immunity from the Constitution, and when if you violate the Constitution, that's actually treason, because the Constitution only applies to public servants who are, i.e., government workers, because they are the only ones who took an oath to it to protect the people, the very people they serve. So how is it that they immune themselves from the liabilities of violating the very thing that put them there in the first place? You see what I'm saying? You hear the oxymoron in that? Doesn't make no sense. This is why these people are foreign to you, right? They are foreigners masquerading as government on your land, the land that was given to you by your creator, okay? Your foot is walking on this land, this earth that was granted to you by your creator, okay? They have no power, okay, to take that away from no one, okay? Under qualified immunity, government workers can only be held accountable for violating someone's rights if a court has previously ruled it was clearly established those precise actions were unconstitutional. If no such decision exists or it exists but just in another jurisdiction, the official is immune even if the official intentionally, because everything is about intent, people. So if somebody intentionally violate your rights, intentionally, right, maliciously or unreasonably violated the law or constitution. So they are saying this is so unlawful, man, right? And this is okay. This is right. This is how they are operating over here. And you want people like myself to adhere to these so-called statutes and codes. You got to be kidding me. Are you kidding me? What kind of tyrants are these people? How do a public servant who works for the people get immunity from the people they're violating? How does that work? How do you make yourself immune? Right? These people should be put on the hang, man. This is treason. This qualified immunity is treason. And people just sit around and allow this. Not only that, but it's saying here. So they're saying if there's no so-called case law, right, precedents within that jurisdiction, that state, that's unconstitutional, then they are immune. When the very Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, is their actions is repugnant to that supreme law of the land, that is actually what's supposed to go through Congress only for it to be even passed into law, for it to even take effect. So a Supreme Court cannot legislate the law, okay? It all have to go through Congress, okay? What does it take to show that right is clearly established? To show that a right is clearly established, a victim must identify an earlier decision by a Supreme Court or a federal appeals court in the same jurisdiction holding that precisely the same conduct under the same circumstances is illegal or unconstitutional, right? If no decision exists, qualified immunity protects the official by default. So, when they are harassing you, getting from point A to point B, right, that they qualified for immunity, right? I guess so. Right? That's how they're qualified. So they could pull you over, pull you out your private property, right? And beat you to death, and they're immune. Okay, I see. And that's okay. That's all right. That's all right for you guys. Okay. Cool. For example, the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals recently held that a prison guard who pepper sprayed an inmate in his locked cell for no reason did not violate a clearly established right, because similar cited cases involve law enforcement officials who had hit and tased inmates for no reason rather than pepper spraying them for no reason. So they could actually violate your rights for no reason and get qualified immunity. Right. I see. I dare them to try that. I'm taking everything. I'll take the rest of I'm gonna be quiet. Do courts need to decide whether the Constitution was violated before granting qualified immunity? First of all, if the court is not going according to the Constitution, that court by itself is unlawful and should not even be operating or functioning. Okay? There's no justice. There's no so-called justice when you have unlawful tyrants masquerading as government, right? Acting like they are your superiors when they work for you. It's an oxymoron, man. No, the clearly established test requires a victim to identify a nearly identical earlier decision by Supreme Court or Federal Appeals Court in the same jurisdiction. This means that courts will sometimes hold that a government worker actions violated the Constitution and then use qualified immunity to let him off the hook, right? But often courts do not even address whether a government worker violated the Constitution, thanks to Supreme Court's 2009 decision, right, which is unconstitutional within itself. So the question is, what is the Constitution? What is it for? Is it for these tyrants? What is it for? Right? They have no right to be on the land, extorting people, violating people's rights. They have no rights. If you breach somebody, trespass on somebody's rights, you automatically have none yourself. I don't care who you are. Okay? You are not immune. There's no such thing. You can't breach and trespass on a man, a woman, a living woman, of Indian, right? Indigenous, right? Primordial, antediluvian, I'm not going to say inhabit, I'm going to say habitant of these lands, right? And not meet, and not be punished. It doesn't work. Okay? We are the law. Okay? We dictate the law. Okay? Not these tyrants. They are for-profit, highway, extortion, RICO, you name it. All the violations you could think of. Okay? Such a system fosters what some scholars call constitutional stagnation. Since courts may simply ignore the underlying constitutional issues and decide cases under qualified immunity, which is unconstitutional within itself. For instance, when a police officer shot a 10-year-old child while trying to shoot a non-threatening family dog, the 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals held that the officer was entitled to qualified immunity because no earlier case held it was unconstitutional for a police officer to recklessly fire his gun into a group of children without justification. Now you people tell me. You tell me if this is by any means, right? Righteous. You tell me if this isn't the demons, the devils, man. I'm telling you, man, get out of her. Get out of her. Leave this shit to them and let this shit burn with them. Right? Give it back to them. It belongs to them. Okay? You want no parts of this shit. Right? Stay away from these people. They're not here for you. They're privateers. They are pirates. Okay? Not only was the officer let off the hook in that case, but the very same officer could act the same way again and would still be entitled to qualified immunity. So, now you wonder why you're shooting things go on no justice for all these criminal behavior, for all these because this is actually a means of genocide. Apart from using biological weapons, this is a occupying force here on the land to terrorize especially indigenous people, Indians, American Indians, you know what I'm saying? Terrorize people altogether and get away with it. This justifies terrorism, people. This is what the alleged government is justifying, or the alleged courts is justifying. Okay? Does qualified immunity apply to government workers other than police? Yes, qualified immunity applies to all government workers, whether local, state, or federal. Some of them might get even greater protections, like prosecutors and judges. See, and that's where the conflict of interest comes in, because you cannot be on the same team and you're saying you're going to represent the so-called defendant. It's asinine. It's crazy. This includes, for example, mayors, governors, medical board inspectors, prison guards, school administrators, right? So medical board inspectors, right? IRS agents and everyone who works for the government, which is an occupying army. It's not a government, okay? It's a occupying. The people is the government, okay? The people is the government on all land masses, not the ones who are the public servants. You have to correct them. You have to correct the narrative. They're public servants, okay? As well as private individuals who act jointly with government workers. Private individuals who act jointly. So these are people who are contracted with the government to harass, like your tow companies, right? That come and take your car, your property. I won't say car, your automobile, right? That's actually larceny, right? Right? Do not consent to anything with these people. Nothing. If you don't consent, then they take it by force, right? And then no, they will not be qualified for no immunity. Okay? Workers are undertake governmental tasks such as private prison operators and anchor monitoring companies. Does qualified immunity apply in a criminal case? No. Qualified immunity applies only in civil lawsuits, not criminal prosecutions. Okay? Yet such civil suits are the only means by which individuals or their families can get compensation for the violation of constitutional civil rights. And in practice, civil lawsuits are often the only means to seek justice at all. But you see, this is where unlawful conversion comes in, because they convert a civil situation into a criminal situation. But that's when it's flipped against you. You get me now? That's when it's flipped against you. So in cases where it should be civil, they put it as criminal, okay? And then now they deem you as not qualified for nothing, okay? That's what I'm telling you. Come out of her, people. Know what securities are. Know what a trust is. Know your position within a trust. You know what I'm saying? Know all these terms. You know what I'm saying? So, and in practice, civil lawsuits are often the only means to seek justice at all, because prosecutors themselves, government workers, are typically reluctant to bring criminal charges against their government colleagues, especially police officers who are crucial to the work prosecutors do on a daily basis, because they are aiding and abetting together. They are conspiring to convert your right into a privilege and tax it. Okay, that's unlawful conversion. That's securities fraud. Okay, if you want to go the route of securities, right, the benches, these instruments that they create unlawfully to subjugate you to a transmitting utility. If you don't know who you are, then you're gonna get caught in that trap. Okay? Does qualified immunity apply when government workers intentionally violate the law? Yes. So it qualifies when they intentionally violate the law, people. So how can you have any kind of respect or honor for these criminals? Qualified immunity applies even when officials intentionally or recklessly violate the law. The primary consideration in a qualified immunity analysis is whether there is an earlier court case specifically stating that the particular action of an official are unconstitutional. But there are many court cases that precedents have set that determine that everything they do is unlawful, the whole procedure. So, for example, the Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals held that police accused of stealing $225,000 while executing a search warrant were entitled to qualified immunity. So they could come and break into your house with a so-called warrant that have no valid court seal or so-called signature on it and steal your property. Court had never addressed whether the theft of property covered by terms of such a warrant violates the Fourth Amendment. It absolutely does. Absolutely. It did not matter that virtually every human society teaches that theft generally is morally wrong. So they get qualified immunity through these courts, so-called courts, foreign occupying army courts, right? These so-called courts. Does qualified immunity apply when government workers do something obviously wrong? Yes. Incompetence is not an exception to qualified immunity. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals granted an officer qualified immunity after he picked up a mentally infirm man and per an unwritten custom of dropping vagrants into other jurisdictions, drove the man to the county line and dropped him off along the highway at dusk, where he was later struck and killed by a motorist. So, people, this should be with all what's going on, right, with this biological weapon and the information war, right? When we try to share you information, we're at war with these crooks, these criminals, these demons, okay? You gotta realize that, right? You know, the channel got striked, right, for valid information that I shared with others, with you guys, that you could pull up on the website yourself. It's there, right? Okay. So, in essence, all these entities, all these set up on this landmass here they are not supposed to be even here. They are violating laws, the Most High laws. They are the demons, right? The Antichrist, so to speak. To be fair, there's Supreme Court decisions, Hope versus Pelzer, that specifically say that some constitutional violations are just obviously wrong, and there's no need for a court to say so before you can hold a government worker accountable. Okay, so you got to look into these Hope versus Pelzer. But at the end of the day, people, if they could get away with intentionally doing something, you can't justify them being here and operating here. There's no justification. They're occupying army forces, subjugating innocent people, man, woman, and children, right, and forcing them to under these tyrannical and draconian so-called statutes. Okay, so that's something I'll share with you. I'll just stop it right there for now. I'll pick up on it. So remember, people, check out the podcast, Stop It Media. That's where we're gonna be sharing most information, because you're attacking the channels. Brother X got his channel sabotaged. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. All right. So, peace out, people. Stay alert.